Good afternoon, everyone. As you begin joining the room, we will open it. We'll start the webinar at 4:02. So we'll just give everyone a chance to join us and get settled before we get started. All right, welcome everyone. Honestly, that felt like the longest 2 minutes ever. I don't know why. I just felt like that was the longest 2 minutes of the day. Welcome to the do's and don'ts of college essay writing. This session, we're super excited that you're here to join us. I have four phenomenal panelists that are going to talk to you all about essay writing today. But before I introduce our first speaker, just a couple of housekeeping things. Asking questions. There's no chat feature for today, but you can use the Q&A feature to ask any questions you want of our presenters. We ask that you be specific. So if you want to know an answer from, let's say, Butler University or IU or Purdue or Hanover specifically, just say their name when you ask the question. If it's more general, just feel free to ask the question and all of them will try to answer that for you. You'll notice that your camera and microphone are both off. That's on purpose. You can't turn them on, so make sure if you have any questions, you use the Q&A feature. Also, this is one of a number of sessions in our virtual college exploration program. So sign up for extra programs throughout the next couple of days. We want to make sure that we're as helpful as we can with this process. And also recordings will be available of all the sessions. So as you're diligently taking notes, if you miss something, don't worry. You can go back and watch the session maybe with some friends, with your family, get some popcorn. It'll be a great time. With that said, I want to introduce your first speaker. Kylie is from Butler University, and she is going to get us started. So I will stop sharing my screen and let her share hers. And she will also introduce the other panelists before we all take a step back and let her present away. So Kylie?
All right, can everyone see my gray entry slide there? I'm always a little worried about Zoom screen sharing. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Kylie Strike and I am here representing Butler University. Butler is a small to medium private liberal arts school located in Indianapolis. I am here with my colleague Marnie, who represents Indiana University Bloomington, Amay, who represents Hanover College, and Andrea, who represents Purdue University. So they will all be taking some time to share their insights with you later on. But first, I am going to dive in and talk a little bit about the purpose of an admission essay. So again, I mentioned my name is Kylie Strike, and the first thing we'll talk about is some of the purposes of what your essay should accomplish. So the overall purpose of your admission essay is to help the Office of Admission at the school you're applying to get to know you. It's an opportunity to add voice to your application. So think about the essay prompts that might allow you to share more about maybe your personality, something that you feel is important for admission representatives to know. This is especially helpful if it's information that's not found elsewhere on the application. So again, it is really a chance for us to get to know you, to dive a little bit deeper in most cases than really the academic information that you do share through your transcript, prep test scores, other items in your application. That being said, if you have some academic struggles in your transcript or elsewhere, and it would be helpful for the Office of Admission to understand the context for those struggles or inconsistencies, the essay is an opportunity to share that information as well. So there's several different items that you can accomplish within that essay, but at the same time, I think it's important to know a few things that your essay is not. Your essay, the purpose of your essay is not to write an English paper. We are not grading you on how well you can stay on topic, or that you accomplish your thesis, or you have a concluding paragraph, good body paragraph. That's really not what a college admission office is looking for. Again, it is truly an opportunity for us to get to know you, to see that you can write at a level that would show you're academically capable at the collegiate level. So if you do have a ton of grammar issues, run-on sentences that make it confusing to read, that will be a problem, but we're not going so far as to truly grade your essay like an English paper. So don't stress about that. Again, it really is a little bit more formal, but at the same informal, I should say, but at the same time, it's not so informal that you should treat it like a casual conversation either. You still want to make sure that you are using good punctuation, and that you're not using, internet kind of text and tweet language. You also want to make sure that it's not a novel. I've seen some essays that are several pages long, and that's not necessarily the goal. A lot of schools are going to have a word count, so be mindful of that word count. Stick to your prompt, stay on track, stay on focus. It doesn't need to be several pages long in order for us to get to know you. So those are just a few of the initial kind of items to keep in mind. Truly what the admission essay is about is adding voice to your application. And there's a variety of prompts that you can choose from when you are looking through the application method that you end up going with for one or multiple schools. So take some time, think through those prompts. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Marnie, and she's going to dive more into the do's of admission writing.
Thanks, Kylie, and welcome everyone. We are so thrilled that you are here talking all about this process. And I know there's this general anxiety and just the anxiety in the world, but we want to do what we can. So definitely connect with us. Feel free to connect with any four of us. Our contact information we'll have posted. So even if you don't have any questions now, which we hope you take advantage of the Q&A at the end, that's the real meat and potatoes to answer your questions. We want to do what we can about this thing called essay writing. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the do's. I'm going to try to be positive. I'm going to try not to say that other word. So first and foremost, even before a single word is written, what I want you to do is think about your prompts. Now, every school might be different. Maybe there'll be textures that you can maybe tweak. But really it's that brainstorming time that I think is really, really important. So the goal is to set that tone and use your voice. Admissions officers want to see your style, your personality. So definitely do use your own writing style and be, as you can see, be specific and put thoughtfulness into what you're writing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Oh, I said it, darn it. But do make sure that you are, and like Kylie said, that you are talking about kind of filling in the blanks of what is already being discussed. It's really about what do you want the committees to know. And I say committees because sometimes Colleges, universities will use it for admission and for scholarships. And let me also say, I forgot to mention, I'm from Indiana University, Bloomington. I got really excited, you guys. We are a large public institution, tier 1 research institution in Bloomington, Indiana, just in southern Indiana. So sorry about that. But at any rate, back to the topic at hand. Yeah, so, you know, our admissions committees, those that are evaluating these, want to see your genuineness. They want to see your voice. So again, what do you want the committees to know? And that's also true is if there was an academic challenge, you might be able to talk about what might have happened at that time. Again, depending upon the prompts. And a lot of prompts are short. And this is very, very intentional. Maybe just a few paragraphs. So really focus and consider exactly all of the things that you want to add so you can be descriptive in that prompt. And again, a lot of prompts are going to be general so that you can talk about maybe one topic. You don't, again, need to be precise. That's what I would say. But yeah, in reinventing the wheel is not necessarily what committees want to see. Let's go to the next slide. Here's some pro tips. Yeah, edit your work. So again, there may be an essay that might be applicable to more than one school. We won't know if you've used those at other institutions, but if you allude to those, we will know. That's not to say that we won't make a positive decision. However, we will know that that is an attention to detail that was not necessarily considered. So what I always recommend is certainly read out loud, potentially ask a peer or a family member, a teacher, or a counselor to review what you are sending in. Again, depending upon the prompt, depending upon what it is for, can be various things, but just make sure that you are looking at everything that you send to us that is grammatically correct, factually correct, and really does review who you are as a student and what you're trying to accomplish. Again, we've talked about this again. What do you want the committee to know? And Kylie said this too. So those are some of my tips. I'm gonna throw it over to my great colleague, May, and we look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Marnie. You guys are a hard act to follow. And we've got Andrea who's going to back clean up for us. So strong group of women today, and I'm so delighted and honored to be a part of them. And I am honored and delighted to be a part of your day as well. So thank you so much for joining us. My name's May Shireman. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Admission at Hanover College. I'm a regional representative based here in Indianapolis. Hanover is a private liberal arts college, the oldest private liberal arts college in the state of Indiana. We are a small institution located on 650 acres in Southeast Indiana. We sit right on the Ohio River. And the campus literally looks exactly like you see it right now in that picture with all the fall colors. So come check out the beauty of Hanover. We'd love to have you. Let's go to our next slide. So I got stuck with the don'ts, right? So I'm going to try to make the don't as positive as I possibly can. But sometimes for me, when I've got a really big project in front of me, the easiest way for me to kind of narrow down what it is I have to do, what it is I have to tackle, is by sort of blocking out and getting rid of those things that I don't need to do, right? That I shouldn't be doing or that I shouldn't be focused on. So it makes it much clearer as to what my directive is. So here are some tips and strategies that I'm going to give you as it relates to writing that college essay. The first thing that I want to tell you to do is don't put it off. Just don't put it off. It's usually the one piece that I find students are waiting on at the 11th hour to do in order to complete, it's the one step I should say, that they've put off till the 11th hour in order to complete their application for admission. So please don't put it off. This is something that you should be working on right now, as many of us have November 1 deadlines for maximum admission consideration and scholarship consideration. And it's such an important piece, as my other two colleagues alluded to, within the context of reviewing your application, that you want to make sure that you're giving it enough time so that you can submit a very thoughtful, well-executed piece of writing that gives voice to your application. So give it the time that it is due, and make sure that you don't put this off to the last minute. Don't skip the exercise of writing an essay. And here's why. Many of us have essay optional applications for admission, which is fantastic. Many of us also have competitive scholarships that we offer after, or consideration for, I should say, that we give consideration for at the time of reviewing your application for admission, right? So when I have a student for whom I am reading their application for admission, and I'm thinking about these competitive scholarships that require a nomination on my part as the admission counselor, or require some additional information, additional voice to, or perspective to that application, and I don't have an essay, it makes it really tough for me to get that nomination successfully pushed through. So don't skip it, even if it is optional, because a lot of times we will use that piece of writing to nominate you or put you forward for consideration for additional scholarship consideration. The other thing that I will tell you is that even if it's not required upfront as part of the application for admission, it will likely be required on the back end for some of those scholarship competitions. So again, rather than putting it off until you get the request for it, why not have a couple on deck and ready to go when they get called up to bat? We're a big baseball family, so that's why I'm using that language. Don't use informal conversational language. So this is really important because I'm seeing a lot of this right now. Students are submitting essays that sound as though they're having a conversation with their buddies, of course, socially distanced and masked up as appropriate, but out by their car or hanging out by the pool or just hanging in the basement playing Xbox. It's very conversational, and you need to remember that this is a formal piece of writing. This is an academic piece of writing. So avoid, which I have not done in this presentation, but if you can, avoid contractions, spell out numbers, use appropriate intellectual academic language. I don't want you to overshoot, right? So if blue is blue, go ahead and call it blue. You don't have to do a shift F7 and see what the thesaurus pulls up as a version of blue that might be 15 letters long. Go ahead, if the sky is blue, the sky is blue, that's great. But just remember, don't use slang, don't use that conversational language that you would use when you're talking with your friends. Instead, this needs to be a formal academic piece of writing. Don't forget that others will read your essay. And this is really important because often a student will share with me information that I have to wonder in my mind if they are comfortable with me sharing with our admission committee or with our scholarship committee or with a faculty member who might be meeting with them and looking for some additional context or background as to who this student is, with whom they're going to meet later that week or month or what have you. And so I think it's really important that you remember others will read this essay. Now, if you have information that you'd like to share privately with one of us as your admission counselors or anybody else who you might be working with at this point, that's fine. And it's really easy for you to pick up the phone or even send an email that says, hey, I'd like to have a really quick conversation to give you some additional information off the record that I would prefer you not to share out, but that will help you better understand my application for admission and my ability to be successful at your institution, then that's great. But I always want to make sure that students are cognizant and aware of the fact that others will read your application for admission, including the essay. So if you're not comfortable sharing out that information, pick up the phone, give us a call. And we'll figure out the best way to make sure that that is taken into account when reviewing your application without compromising your privacy. Don't go at it alone. I have yet to meet the student who's a Pulitzer Prize winner, a Nobel Prize winner for their writing. And so even those folks don't go it alone. They have editors. So I think it's really important that you look to who you know to see who would you be comfortable asking to review your essay. It's really important that you convey to whoever you hire, so to speak, don't change the story. This is my story, right? It's my story. It's my perception. It's what happened to me. It's mine. But do look for grammatical errors. Do look for spelling errors. Do look for smooth transitions. Please make sure that it's technically executed correctly. So I think it's really important. Again, don't try to do this by yourself. Make sure that you hire an editor, somebody who inside of your family or outside of your family you're comfortable sharing this information with, so that again, they can help you catch those errors that you might not catch. Please don't use inappropriate attention grabbers. So I've seen students use inappropriate language or inappropriate introductions to try and catch my attention because they've read somewhere that someone said this is what you should do, because they're reading so many applications for admission and so many essays, you want to stand out. So try an attention grabber. Don't do it, because rarely, if ever, does it work. And again, this is an academic piece of writing. We want to make sure you can follow instructions, that you're answering the prompt, and that you're doing so correctly and appropriately. So please make sure to stay away from what you might hear as the kind of quick and easy, fast way to get our attention, and instead write in a more traditional way. I also want to close with don't write with what you don't know. So what do I mean by that? Well, I have a lot of students who look at me and they see the gray and they know that I've done this for a long time. And so they think she's going to want to hear me present my take on world issues right now that might be impactful to her based on where she is right now in her life. Or she might want to hear things about higher education, and I should write about that because it'll really impress her. You know, I know you'd think 25, I get it, but I'm a 47-year-old woman, and we really shouldn't have anything in common, quite frankly. So please don't try to write what you think I want to hear. Don't write about topics that you think will impress me based on who I am, the position I hold, and where I am in my professional life or personal life. And I have students who do that. And I always think to myself, gosh, I know you're not comfortable in this space. I know you're not confident about what it is you're trying to convey or communicate to me. You're not doing it effectively. And I really don't expect you to have any experience in this part of my world, so to speak. So make sure that you're writing about something that is authentic and genuine to who you are, and something you're comfortable and knowledgeable about in sharing. So we'll go to that last slide because I always like to close with some humor. I always like to point out examples of what not to do. I'm a visual learner, so it's really helpful for me. Again, to have that list of, remember, don't do these things, hit on these things, and here's some examples of when we say don't do this, this is what we mean. So when I talk about students using language that's above and beyond what they would normally use outside of social interaction, right? Informal communication. This is one that came to mind last year. This is not going to endear me to a certain swath of my friends, maybe a couple of swaths, but it's exactly where I stand. Right off the bat, when you say this is not going to endear me, you're casting a very negative tone or connotation to what I'm about to read. What I would also say is that I have yet to hear anybody use the word swath outside of like, I feel like pirate movies. Okay. So use language that you know, speak to what you know, and make sure that you're mindful of that tone. Marnie's tip to read aloud was fantastic and can often help students to see, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. I wanted to convey something else. That's right. I'm a cougar. Yes, indeed. We had a young woman who wrote about her accomplishments as a cougar within her high school. She loved being a student ambassador because she was one of the first to see the new freshman men who joined their high school. And wouldn't you know it, we made a quick call to her high school and she was no longer eligible to be a student ambassador, nor was she offered admission, quite frankly, because that is a great example of what not to write. When I talk about informal language, this is a great example. IDK, what I want to major in, but I know I want to be a grizzly, LOL. Well, first of all, again, I'm a 47-year-old woman. A lot of this language that you guys use to text or communicate back and forth, I don't know what it means. And it's super embarrassing for me to have to ask my 7th grade son, like, can you tell me what this means? Mom doesn't know. And it's just not language that you use in academic writing, right? So again, make sure that your language isn't conversational, that it's appropriate. The other thing that I would tell you is make sure that if you're using the same essay for every single school to which you're applying, change out the mascot, because if you tell me you want to be a grizzly, those are fighting words because we're the Hanover Panthers and our number one competition happens to be the Franklin College Grizzlies. So finally, this again, an attention grabber that failed. I'm like a 7-layer cake, take a bite. Well, way to go, kiddo, because you just wrecked cake for me. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to take a bite of cake with a straight face again. So inappropriate attention grabber, not the right time, place, ever, quite frankly, to talk about cake that way and to reference yourself as a piece of cake. But certainly that's where those tips that you'll see in the news, usually about this time of year, on how to get our attention, this is an example of how those things can fail. So hopefully you got a chuckle out of a couple of those. I know I certainly did when I read them. And now I think it is my pleasure and privilege to kick it over to Andrea Letts from Purdue University. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. It's a privilege to be here with you this evening. I am an assistant director at Purdue University, which is located in West Lafayette, Indiana. We are a large public research institution. Our team actually created this checklist that I'm about to share with you today. And it's honestly kind of an overview of what my amazing colleagues just shared in the earlier part of this presentation. So I'm kind of going to provide an ending overview of things to check before you hit submit. Okay, so the first one, review, review, review. And this has been shared multiple times already throughout this presentation, but it's really important for you to read your essay multiple times, to read it out loud so that you can hear your own voice. I think that helps you, see our transition smooth. Is there anything clunky or strange about my essay that can be improved? Sit it aside for a few days, read it through, make some changes, proofread, look at grammar, structure, spelling, word usage, but then sit it aside and go about your life. Don't think about your essay, don't look at it, and then come back to it with fresh eyes. With writing in general, that's always helpful to just sit it aside, come back to it, read through it again. Does the entire essay make sense? That's also something to consider when you're reviewing your essay. When you read through the entire essay, is there an overall narrative? Is there an overall point to the essay? And reading it out loud, I think, helps that as well. A couple of my colleagues brought this up as well, but I'm going to share it again. It's sometimes easy to, you want to pull out the thesaurus, and the thesaurus is a super helpful tool, and I recommend utilizing it, but only utilize it to use words that you actually use in real life. Again, there were some funny examples shared, but again, great tool, but use your voice. We want to get to know you through your essay. And so we want to hear things that you would actually say in real life. Okay, I talked about fresh eyes a little earlier, but have someone else read it. A friend, a teacher, a parent, if you're comfortable having your parent read it, a college student. So if you have a friend that's in college or a family member, a family friend, have that college student read it and have them be the extra set of fresh eyes to read through your essay, to proofread it. It's always good to have someone else read it, just to ensure, one, that grammar and punctuation, spelling is correct. But then another reason, it's good, you want this essay to represent you and to be your voice, and having someone read it that knows you well is going to be able to help you with that as well, and be honest with you, like, hey, this sounds like you, or this doesn't really sound like you at all. So be sure to share with them that lens of the purpose of the essay. Use the correct school. Obviously, this isn't like a make or break it in terms of essay writing, but it is distracting. Multiple times I'll get to the bottom of an essay and it's like, that's why I want to go to Texas Tech. I'm like, wait, what? Or that's why I want to be a Hoosier. You're like, wait a minute. So, and that includes every essay portion of the application. So a lot of schools, we have the main, common application essay, but then there are, smaller specific essays about why you want to choose your major or why you want to go to that particular school. Make sure that you're not just, if you are copying, pasting certain bits and pieces of information, make sure it's not the school name, because again, it's just really distracting and does show a lack of attention to detail, or even interest in your school. Check your word count. And this is important because, we do read tons and thousands of essays, and the word counts are there so that we can have a concise piece of writing. With the common application essay, which is pretty common amongst universities, it's 250 to 650 words. So you're wanting to be sure you're in between that minimum and maximum. And the same can be said for other essays that are in the application as well. We enjoy concise essays. Last but not least, and this is probably my favorite, before you hit submit, think to yourself and reflect, read through your essay and reflect. Am I proud of this essay? Is this something that I enjoy reading myself? Is this a good representation of the authentic me? I think it's really important to ask yourself that, because that's what we're wanting to gain from reading your essay, is the authentic you. We're wanting to gather information that we can't get elsewhere in the application. And if you're proud of it, then that's a good indication that it is going to be information that's unique to other parts of the app. And, if you read it and you're not proud of it, reflect on why that may be and just make the changes. The essay writing process, it can be a process and take time. A lot of schools, we have our early action or early admission deadlines, typically in early November or early December. And so you still have some time to work on your essay and make it a piece of work that you are proud of and that you feel like represents you well. And I believe, so that's just a brief checklist before you click submit. So I think everyone's going to join us, and we would absolutely love to answer any questions that you might have about the essay writing process, or even application review process in terms of reading essays. So please don't be shy. Type your questions in the Q&A, and we would love to be resources for you.
We also understand that it's Wednesday and like 75 degrees and sunny and gorgeous, and that you may not have any questions right now, but you know you're going to have them in the future. So take a screenshot of this particular slide and feel free, certainly when those questions arrive, to email us. Our contact information is also available online. Most of us have office numbers or cell numbers that we post as well. So feel free, if you can't think of anything right now because the sunshine is calling. I get it. But also know that you've got 4 of us here who have a lot of combined experience and will speak the truth in love. So feel free to ask what might be on your mind at this point.
Absolutely.
Ooh, we got a question.
Nice.
Got it. Since we've got time to share this out.
That's completely fine. The question is, what is an example of a college essay prompt?
I don't know if any of you have at the ready the essay, Common App essay prompts.
I can find that if you guys want to talk about what your essay prompts are if you're not using the Common App, but I can find that for us and share those out.
I can do that because we use our own supplemental essay, focusing on what you want to major in, what you want to do in college, and or what you want to do after college. So your career interest, and or if there has been an obstacle or challenge that affected your grades, to talk about it. And notice I said and or, because again, if you want to just talk about one thing, that is okay. It's 200 to 400 words, which sounds like a lot, but like I said before, it's maybe 2 to 3 paragraphs. So again, what do you want to convey? What you can supplement as part of your application. And we personally don't review the Common App or Coalition essays, but if you want to say, please look at that, we will. But for admissions and for scholarships, that's the prompts that Indiana University Bloomington uses. And that also leads me to, if you have a Common App prompt that is applicable, you can copy and paste.
So thank you to Janaya for finding this. I think this is really helpful. There's one thing that I always like to add about that prompt down at the bottom: to share an essay or topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written. I think on the surface, this sounds like an intriguing idea. If you do have an essay that you've written for a class that you are really proud of. Again, I think that goes back to what Andrea said. I think the foundation is, if you're proud of that work and you want to share it, that's great. I've seen some very lengthy, again, I talked about the novel, but very lengthy examples of essays that students have written. And a lot of times they are pretty deep in the weeds of dissecting a book or dissecting an article that they were assigned in a class, and it doesn't help us get to know you. So if you have an essay that you are proud of for a specific reason, that's great. But I would encourage you to think critically about what that essay is and what it's truly talking about, because it might not really be helpful for an admission prep.
And let me also say, I think there's a new prompt, right? The COVID prompt. I have not seen that, but if you talk about it, regardless of the school that you apply, remember that every person on the planet is experiencing the pandemic. So if you're going to talk about it, again, be specific about how it's affected you.
Mm-hmm.
I saw another question pop up, and it looks like you all are answering it in the chat. So keep it up. These are all the prompts as was mentioned, and also as you can continue to put some things in the chat and our facilitators will, or our panelists will answer them. Just a few housekeeping things as we wrap up today. First off, big thank you for joining. Again, we know it's warm outside and it's beautiful and it's the end of the day, as mentioned earlier. We do have a quick survey that you could take after you finish, after you close the window. A very quick 4-question survey will appear. It's super helpful for us, so if you can take the time to do that, that'd be great. Again, sign up for more sessions. This is all about you guys. Things like this are hopefully gonna help make that college process a little bit easier, and the recordings will be available on the website as soon as possible, so you can go back, popcorn, family, and enjoy. We will take one more minute for any additional questions, but if not, we will give you guys back a couple of minutes. Oh, another question just showed up. Okay. We will keep the room open until the questions stop coming or 4:45 happens, whichever one comes first. But again, thank you guys so much for being here today.
So someone asked a question about adding, if they've already submitted their application without an optional essay, can you go back in and submit it? Please feel free to do that. And I'm trying to find the other one disappeared. Let me see. Kind of along those same lines, once an application is submitted, is it advisable to contact the school and add a supplemental essay? Speaking for Butler personally, we don't have a supplemental essay, so that doesn't really apply. But part of that is just knowing that some schools are going to have different requirements, different expectations, different supplements that they'll consider. So just kind of a blanket statement of, if you're unsure, contact your admission counselor. I think it's really important to know that we exist to help you and to be your support system. So don't be afraid, don't feel like it's a silly question. We know that some people are going through the college admission process for the first time, or, you know, are looking at different schools than an older sibling or parent went to, or, you know, you might feel a little lost out there navigating all of these steps. So even though that's kind of not directly answering that question, just generally speaking, it is advisable to contact the school, contact your admission counselor, and they're happy to support you.
I would just add a quick shout out. I really liked, I think it was Andrea who said, work on it, walk away from it. Work on it, walk away from it. This can be such a stressful process for families. So again, I mean the entire family, right? So you're the senior, you're the one going through the process, but everybody else is feeling the ripple effect of that, right? Because their lives are about to change too. So I think it's really important that you give yourself permission to walk away and set aside this whole big college search, application, financial aid. Just put it down for a day or two and give yourself some space and time to enjoy being a senior, enjoy this gorgeous day, right? The beautiful leaves, some time just to breathe. So I think we would all say, yeah, we've got deadlines, and yes, we want you to meet those deadlines to make sure that you maximize consideration for admission and scholarship, but we don't want this to be as stressful as it often is for families. So create boundaries for yourself, give yourself permission to have boundaries, and if you say Tuesdays are gonna be my day and I'm not working on it, I'm not touching it, great, enjoy yourself some Tuesdays, that's fantastic. But really make sure you aren't trying to go at it all in one fell swoop, right? We're just trying to move the runners, like I said. So it's not about the home run and getting it done all in one up to bat. We're just trying to move the runners, advance the runners, right? So take a piece and walk away, take some time, go back to it, take some time, go back to it. I think you'll find it a much less stressful process if you give yourself permission to just put it away for a second, a day, a weekend, and then come back to it when you're refreshed and renewed. Now I'm hearing all the parents out there like, what are you telling him? I want this done. I want it over with. What are you doing? Don't take your foot off the gas. What'd she just say? So, you can call me.
Gotta give just a little bit of grace, and you have time. That's the other thing. We might say something different on October 28th.
Right.
Maybe it might be an hour
Absolutely.
instead of days. But just like taxes, having a little bit of time and not waiting to the last minute does. And I'm guilty of a lot of last minute things. It's hard in this world where there's just this frequency. So giving yourself grace, giving your counselors as well time as well, that they are moving mountains in the background. Same thing with teachers. So I know this isn't about recommendation letters if a school requests it, but just give them time, just like you're giving yourself time.
And I think we're out of time. Is that right?
I think we're out of time.
I was about to say that, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the attendees that are still here and the ones that went outside. This is a great opportunity for us. We appreciate you and have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.